And this is Baruch Fleischman, and I'm at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and this is the shiur on changes in tefilah, which is coming from the Drush, and let's see what it's called here. It's called the Drush Shinu Tefilos from the Rav HaKodesh, the ARI HaKodesh. So we come over here and we said, well, this is called the Tiv HaKavonos because the Tiv has come with a pirush to try to help us to understand all the different parts and lay it out for us, which should be very complicated, that are coming, and the kavanos that we need to direct ourselves properly to Hashem. So here we are over here, and we had this concept of Yichudim. And we said basically that there are two different types of Yichudim. There's a Yichud, which is called Zuna Gedolim. That is the mating of opposite forces, male and female, in the ultimate highest way. We're going to see what that means. And also there's another Yichud, which is called Zuna Getanim, which is also known as the Yichud between Yaakov and Rachel. So the first is called the Yichud between Yisroel and Rachel, as Rachel grows up to the height of Zeir Anpin. And the second is the Yichud between Rachel and Yaakov, because Yaakov's position, in regard the name Yaakov, that position is from the chest of Zeir Anpin downwards, and just the same way as the position of Rachel normally is from the chest, but that's in the front. Yaakov is in the front of Zeir Anpin, and Rachel is in the back of Zeir Anpin, the same location, the chest going downwards. Let's look over here of Aval. He said, B'Shabbos, what happens on Shabbos? Shemekabel azam mochin de Abba ve'imah Eloyin. That Zah gets mochin from Abba ve'imah Eloyin. This is another way of saying, if you looked at all of the partsufim of Atzilus and you wanted to detach them to the Yud Kei Vav Kei, that this would really refer to the Yud, which is Chochmah. So Abba ve'imah Eloyin are a way of saying that the Chochmah has a male-female aspect to them. That's Abba ve'imah Eloyin. Below them is Yisroel Savat Tavuna, which is another aspect of the same thing, of two opposites that are come together. But that's a lower level. So let's see what he says. Avakish b'Shabbos, shemekabel Zeir Anpin mochin de Abba ve'imah Eloyin. He gets from Chochmah. Mochin de Chaya. And they're also known that the light, the mochin have the light within him, which is called Chaya. Oz nivnes hanuk ba'oros elu, because the lights go through Zeir Anpin into the nukva Zeir Anpin. Shenosan lo Zeir Anpin, and Zeir Anpin gives her these lights. Below kumansu shava b'shava, until she comes actually to be the same height as he. Ba'az nasa yichud zun hagedolim. That on Shabbos produces the yichud of zun hagedolim. The b'shabbat b'shas mincha. Now going in Shabbos at the time of mincha, Mizgadol od yoser. She's able, that is, the nukva is able to grow more. Zeir Anpin is able to grow more. U'makabel Zeir Anpin gad mochin the Erik Anpin. He gets more penimistic of mochin, even more. V'nimsa the bechol netoisiv lo rak neshama. So as we had mentioned yesterday, the concept of neranchi, which is nefesh ruach neshama chai yechida, or you could read it backwards, either way, whatever way you like it. But neranchi basically is what goes into Zeir Anpin in a normal state is the neshama, ruach, and nefesh. They're called Naran. But the chaya doesn't come in, only on Shabbos. So he said, Shabbos, ad mincha netoisiv lo gam chaya. On Shabbos, until mincha time, the chaya comes in as well, which is really the power of yichud. Of Shabbos, b'mincha gam yechida, and then at mincha time on Shabbos. After mincha, then you have to have the highest level shines on the Jewish people called yechida. So he said, now the Tiv has a question. So he said, this, you keep saying Yaakov and Rachel and Yisroel and Rachel. What happened to Leah? So he says, if you have this question, what happened to Leah? Shall Zeir Anpin im Leah. You don't see really, I really read it wrong, so let me see it again. The yichud that takes place between Zeir Anpin and Leah, who mishum shaleah eni mamish rak nuk shel Zeir Anpin. I missed the little first part of this, but what it said basically is if you're spending all the time talking about a yichud between Yaakov and Rachel, or Yisroel and Rachel, what happened to Leah? Where did Leah go? So there's a secret here that's really background information that everybody has to know. That at the time of the Shvira, the parts of that Bina fell. It's not that it broke, but some of it fell. So v'kevin shehi ba b'mikra, so b'mikora, Rak Ma'acharayim De'ima Shanaflu. So what part of Ima fell at the time of the Shvira? Remember that Ima is always inside. She's the mother. She is inside of the children. If the children break and die, she's also affected. Not only that is she affected, but everything that's inside of her is affected. So the Shvira went a long way, not just on the 7 Malachim. So over here they affected Bina as well, which is we're using the word Ima. She fell. And she fell where? To the karka, that is the ground of Atzilus. And she only came into being as a result of the fact that the kalim broke and they dragged Bina down to the bottom of Atzilus. Now the kalim fell into Bia. They fell out of Atzilus and now in the Bria Yitzir and Asiyah. So he said, but Nikras parts of Habab Shilas. So she's called really a borrowed parts of. She's not a really solid parts of because she only came about as a result of the Shvira. Whereas Rachel is really Malchus. Below Nikras parts of the Nuk Amitis, she's not considered to be the parts of the real true Nuk. Rak Rachel, it's only Rachel, Keres Abayis, and Nikras Keres Abayis. She's the one that's the root. That she's the female. She's the what's the right word? Keres Abayis means that she's the mistress of the house. V'hicha Nikras B'kol Mako Malchus the Chatzilus, and Rachel is always known as Malchus of Atzilus. She's Spheres of Malchus, Melech Hazayin. She is the sphere of Malchus, which is the 7th king, also broke. But then she's going to be put back together again, and we're going to find out all about that. This is Baruch Fleischman here at the Tikkun Elevator Kolo. I think this is the 12th, might be the 13th shir. I'm going to find out in this series on changes in tefilah. I can only tell you this is really, really important for people who want to learn how to pray. This is Baruch Fleischman.